Good morning. I hope you all are well and comfortable. I'm very well, but I'm also a bit uncomfortable. Here I am this morning in this beautiful 113-year-old building. But what causes me discomfort is that I'm here alone, just me and the camera. I didn't realize till just a little while ago how much I depend on your eye contact, your energy, your body language, even your chuckles at my attempts at humor. Yes, I'm a little uncomfortable, but that's why I get the big bucks. So let's get on with it, shall we? You know, I started in January trying to hold an ideal present and in my intention and in my awareness. And that ideal was to proclaim and stay focused on making 2020 a year of transformation. Personal transformation. That was my thought. A time when all of us could work together, help each other, elevate our consciousness, elevate our ability to understand, elevate our awareness. Little did I know that our universe, I think, must have had similar intention. Here we are, definitely in a time of transformation. You know, it's generally accepted that when we're in this time of transformation, for any change to take place, for any transformation to take place, we must think out of the box or step out of our comfort zone. Well, I know for a fact that every single one of us has been hurled from our comfort zone in these last several days. And here we are all together, out of our comfort zones. Of course, we all have these feelings of fear and anxiety. But I think once we get past the shock of this drastic change in our day-to-day lives, we have a wonderful opportunity. And that opportunity is to think. Actually think. Maybe we can redefine value in our lives. I heard someone say that when senior citizens approach that time of transformation to the next realm, to the next dimension, that they reassess their lives. And 99% of those people, as they look back on their lives, they don't think about the Lexus that they had, or that they had the newest version of the iPhone. They reflect more on the relationships that they had with the people they loved, with their friends, with the people they worked with. Maybe it's time that we reassessed what's valuable in our lives, the experiences that taught us the most, that gave us the most joy and contentment and fulfillment. Maybe it's time we could use our thinking process to do a little work in our creations journals. What are we going to create? maybe we could create a higher level of consciousness. I spoke last week almost entirely on developing a we consciousness. We have this perfect opportunity. All of us are practicing sheltering in place. And where did that come from? That's a little buzz phrase that I'm sure was created by some corporate media editor. And they gave all the talking heads the same script. Actually, if we stop and think about it, folks, right now we are experiencing a time of martial law. It's not like the martial law that was created in this country during the Second World War, where we had mandatory lights off at dark on the east and west coasts, where we had mandatory rationing of gas and sugar and tires and most consumables. We aren't rounding up tens of thousands of U.S. citizens and putting them in internment camps. But I think we're experiencing this sheltering in place. That sounds very politically correct. Sheltering in place to maintain control. It's something our government is very insistent upon. A lot of people, very, very important to maintain control. They do a pretty good job of it too. And who are these people who want to maintain control? They're the governments of most of the countries in the world. And those governments are financially supported mostly by the mega global corporations and that corporate empire. It's very important that they control what we think and what we do. The corporate media owns 98%. 5 companies own 98% of the media in this country. And they all have pretty much the same script, if you'll notice. Very little independent news. And they also want to maintain that precious thing called the stock market. Well, that's kind of evaporating right in front of their eyes. Much the way our day-to-day comfort zone lifestyles are evaporating right in front of our eyes. But I think it's a great opportunity. I said this last week, I'll say it again today. It hasn't happened, I don't think, on this scale in the last 5,000 years. These 1% control freak dudes, let's put some numbers on them. If we took all the people who sat in the mega corporation boardrooms throughout the world, and we took all the people who are part of the hierarchy of national governments throughout the world, what would we have? 2, 3, maybe 4 million people. That's less than 1/10 of 1% of the population on this planet. There's 7 billion people that have no interest in controlling all of society, that have no interest in controlling the stock market, that have no interest in controlling what we think. They just want to, just like you and I, they just want to live together in harmony. have enough food to feed their kids, enough shelter to keep them out of the elements. They want to see their children get good educations. They want to see their children thrive and have joy in their lives. 7 billion of us with a common desire. How can we bring this around? How can we bring it about? Well, that's for each of us to ponder a bit, contemplate. I don't think it's written down in any book. There's a perfect place to find the knowledge and the wisdom and the courage we need right now. And that place is in communion with Spirit. When we commune with the divine, we have access to the wisdom and the knowledge and the power that controls the planetary orbits, the power and the wisdom that control the tides and the weather patterns, the wisdom and the knowledge of creating life of all types. All of the species that we know about, all the ones we don't know about. And all of those species, all of the oceans, all of the weather patterns, all of the animals, all of the growing things, they all were designed with a divine plan of harmony, coexisting in harmony. And I believe that if each of us spends some time with Spirit, quiet down and just have spiritual experience, quiet down and just allow Spirit that is within every one of us to offer us that knowledge, that wisdom, that peace, that courage, to create within our lives a new level of harmony, a new level of empathy and compassion, a new level of self-esteem. I watched a video the other day, and it was, I don't know the lady's name, and I wish I did. She is an activist right here in Richmond, California, and she has organized groups within Richmond to create farms within the city limits on public lands. And there's a huge farm right across the main gate of the big refinery, right off of 580. And they're growing fruits and vegetables and setting up produce stands throughout the community to make available to the citizens of Richmond healthy, homegrown, fresh fruits and vegetables at a very small cost. And as we all know, that Richmond is primarily a city of colored people, people of color. And those people, their grocery stores have had for their consumption canned goods, processed foods, not necessarily healthy things. This is a huge step forward, that just a few people got together and showed the courage and the tenacity and the desire to create something worthwhile for their community, and they're doing it. And I heard this lady tell a story. She said it came from Africa. It seems like in the jungles in Africa there was a huge fire. And all of the animals were gathered together, and the lions and the elephants and the jaguars And they were all saying, oh, this is a huge fire. This is terrible. What are we going to do? This is a huge thing. It's horrible. And there was a little hummingbird would fly to the river, grab one drop of water, and fly to the edge of the fire and drop it, and go back and forth, and back and forth. And all the other animals said, Hummingbird, what are you doing? You can't put that fire out. And the hummingbird said, I'm doing what I can do. You are doing nothing. Maybe we could all take a lesson from that hummingbird. We can all do what we can do. I am filled with joy when I read emails about people in our congregation who are reaching out to the people within this church community. Anybody needs groceries, anybody needs something from the pharmacy, anybody needs to go to the doctor, we will take you. Creating activities, creating consciousness, creating even ideas based on a we consciousness. You might get tired of hearing that, but you're going to hear it over and over and over again. That's the future of life on this planet, is a we consciousness. You know, this shelter-in-place thing, it has some strange secondary effects. I was watching the other day, there are satellites that record from space the carbon footprint or the pollution that is actually visible in the highly populated urban areas. And in the last 2 weeks, those pictures have been compared, and the carbon footprint over cities like Beijing, LA, New York, San Francisco Bay Area, London, are drastically reduced, quite visible. The dirty clouds that were visible from space over these areas have disappeared. Italy has a whole different footprint. Pollution is almost non-existent in Italy. None of us planned to shelter in place or adjust our lifestyles. And it's uncomfortable. Sure, it's uncomfortable. But it's doable. And look at one of the results in changing our lifestyles a bit. What if we actually got together and planned ways that we could adjust our lifestyle, adjust our consumption? How might that affect the global warming crisis? It's time we start building a consciousness that's based on the good of human beings and plants and animals and our planet itself, except spending our lives making the rich folks richer. And that's what we've done for the last 5,000 years. In 5,000 years, do you know our planet has been engaged the majority of those times in war of some kind or another? It's all about greed and this need to control. And people say, well, that's human nature. I beg to differ with you. That's not human nature. That's the desire of less than 1% of the inhabitants of this planet. they're worried about control, and they're driven by greed, and they use their money to buy their control. We have, I can't stress this enough, a marvelous opportunity to use this time to create some differences in our lifestyles, to use this time to create differences in the way we think, to use this time to create differences in the way we consume, and to use this time to create differences in the way we treat and respect and care for each other. I have special empathy, great empathy, for parents of young children. These young kids, their life has been filled with video games and dancing lessons and music lessons and sports practice and teams of every nature in school and homework. And now they are at home. I talked to someone who was talking to someone who noticed that it has found out that already there is a difference in the behaviors of our young people. Their whole family environment has changed. A whole different level of nurturing and connection is taking place. Not all of it is great, I'm sure. But I have great empathy for these parents. Wow, what a shift in their lifestyles. I don't know. Maybe they'd be interested in a couple of parenting techniques that have been put on the shelf for years and years and years. I remember my mom and dad used to have some parenting techniques. One of them, they used to take all of us kids and lock us in a dark closet about 3 hours a day. That taught us to get past our fear of the dark, fear of tight, closed places, and developed a lot of team spirit. I don't know. Then another technique my parents used was they'd lock themselves in the bathroom with a quart of orange juice and a bottle of vodka. And they called it, what did they call it? Stress therapy. I don't know. Maybe those two techniques are best left on the shelf. But folks, we are in a time of transformation, like it or not. And we can be part of that transformation. We can be a valuable part, a contributing part. Or we can sit on our butts and be afraid and have anxiety. There's not a one of us that doesn't experience fear or hasn't experienced fear these last couple of weeks. Hasn't experienced anxiety. But we can get past that. We have the power of the divine within us. We have the ability to show the wisdom and the compassion and the courage to transform the way we live our lives, to transform the way we think, to transform the way we treat each other. We could all take a lesson from the little hummingbird. We can all make a point to do what we can do. I have every confidence in all of us, because all of us is committed to elevating our consciousness, expanding our awareness, and enriching our lives. That's why we're here. And so it is. wish you all health and peace and joy. Till next week.